WHAV weather.
I'm WHAV meteorologist Gary Best with WAVE weather. It's generally clear and very cold across the Merrimack Valley through the night. Low temperature 3 to 8 below zero. During the day on Tuesday, sunshine followed by clouds in the teens through the afternoon. Maybe some flurries around Tuesday night in the teens then, and a return of sunshine for Wednesday afternoon. High temperature close to 32. Fair and cold on Thursday. This is Gary Best. Your next WAVE weather coming up in 30 minutes.
Some gold favorites, the most music. Catch the wave. WHAV. Open mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
Between the winter weather and the holidays, it seems like we never get to meet. I'm Tim Coco, and this is the Open Mic Show, a 50-year staple of democracy in the Merrimack Valley. Nathan E. Webster III is in master control, and if you've been listening today, Nate, you had a NASCAR race recap on the air all day, or was just the website? Oh, it was just a website, because I was thinking, come to think of it, I haven't seen it. So if you want to learn more about what Joey Logano is up to, go to WHAV.net, look in the sports section, written by Nathan E. Webster III, all-around Renaissance person here at the station. All right, let's go through the basics. You're watching or listening somehow or some way, but here are the choices. You may listen at WHAV.net on your computer or smartphone. You can listen to the show and WHAV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on cable television in Andover, alphabetically, Channel 8, Haverhill, Channel 22, Methuen, Channels 8 and 22 on Comcast, Channel 32 on Verizon Fios, Plasto, Channels 17 and 23, Sandown, Channel 17. Normally, you hear me mention WHAV AM 1640. I was talking to another friend of WHAV today, Mark LeMay, and I was telling him how a giant ice chunk fell off the roof of my house, destroying a grill. Outdoor grill. I neglected to tell him an ice chunk came and tore the wires off our AM transmitter site, so that is under repair. But, of course, we're hoping to do one better than that, and that is to bring you WHAV FM 97.9. And tonight I want to tell you more about WHAV's Make Waves campaign. Make Waves, a nice play on words. You can probably guess where I'm going with that. We'll discuss it a little bit more. Donors are coming in. Many thanks to Tom Bergeron, who got his start at WHAV in 1972 and, of course, has gone on to great things, currently host of Hollywood's Dancing with the Stars. He is the Make Waves honorary chairperson, and even kicked off the campaign with a nice, generous contribution. So we're gonna name some of the donors to the campaign, and we'll do a little bit more. There'll be prizes, other things. So let's not worry too much about WHAV AM being off the air. Coming up just after the news at 7 o'clock, we have some great guests in the studio, Shea and Christina Mazzone. I'm hoping that's how she pronounces it. Shea and Christina Mazzone of Haverhill Against Heroin. They're going to discuss Learn to Cope. It's an information session coming up next week at the Universalist Unitarian Church. I think that'll be very interesting and very timely. If you read WHAV.net on your computer, you can see there's some news items already on the Community Spotlight section about the anonymous people. It's a free showing that's also going to take place this Thursday. They're going to have a lot more to say about all of those happenings. And, of course, if you want to interact with the program, which is very much encouraged, since, after all, this is the open mic show, dial me at, does anyone dial anymore? Do they just press buttons? Maybe they speak the numbers these days. Well, for lack of a term, we'll say dial, 978-374-1900. 978-374-1900. If you're watching on WHAV.TV or Haverhill Community Television Channel 22, and by the way, those are the video sources I failed to mention earlier, then it's usually on your screen, that phone number. Prizes still on the books. We are taking March birthdays and anniversaries. A couple people have managed to get them in before the holidays, the holiday and the snowstorms, whichever. So thanks to our very good friends, and I really do mean that, at LBD's second-generation Italian bakery in Bradford, the Bradford side of the river, or whatever term you prefer. LBD's provides a 7-inch cake, your choice of chocolate or vanilla, provided every month to a lucky winner. And so all you have to do to play the game is to call me and wish someone a happy birthday or a couple a happy anniversary. The recipient's name will be placed into the hat for drawing. Wait a minute. What day is this? Is this the last Monday of the month? We might be drawing that tonight. My goodness, February is a short month. So stay tuned. So this might be your last chance to get the March birthdays and anniversaries in. So call 978-374-1900. Nate is double checking, but I think this month certainly flew by. It's short to begin with, but nevertheless flew by. All right, and then I believe we have a chance for listeners to win a $10 gift certificate, same as cash, to Kimball Tavern Antiques. What I have here, and Nate, I don't know if you researched this for me last time I asked, but I think I have the answer to the question and not the question. So that might be difficult. Was this during your week? All right. So we'll do a little more research on that. Now, many of you participated in our Every Listener Wins a Prize contest. Every caller wins a prize contest a couple of weeks ago, and there were plenty of prizes. I might just get generous and do that again tonight. So keep the phone number handy, 978-374-1900. All right, let me at least bring you up to speed. We haven't seen much of each other lately. Tom Bergeron. Yes, that Tom Bergeron. He got his start at WHAV, this very station, in 1972, and he went on to great things. I think it would be difficult for me to accurately list his resume, but I'll try to do a quick summary. He went from WHAV to WHEB in Portsmouth, and from there he was introduced, I believe, to Channel 11 television, and, well, the rest is history. Went on to Fox for Breakfast, I think it was called, the TV show out of New York. Then ABC's Good Morning America, where he was guest host. America's Funniest Home Videos, Hollywood Squares, and, of course, the show that he's really well known for now, and that, of course, is Dancing with the Stars. Well, Tom has never forgotten his roots. When we did the 60th anniversary of WHAV a few years back, I called Tom on the telephone and asked him, maybe he could find time for a telephone interview, and Tom, gracious as he is, said, "Phone interview, nothing, I'll be there." And he came, sat in this very spot, and worked on the WHAV 60th anniversary special, which was co-hosted by former WBZ morning news anchor Gary Lapierre, who also got his start at WHAV, and of course Phil Christie, which we were introduced to Phil during that anniversary, but Phil went on to become our in the trade we call it our image announcer. He's the one who does all of those announcements you hear every 15 minutes. So the point is, Tom has been very generous, and so always afraid to go to the well too often. I asked Tom, he's been following what we've been trying to do with a new FM station, and I asked if he'd be willing to be chairperson of the campaign, which we call Make Waves, and no hesitation whatsoever, he jumped on board, and then without any further prodding, came up with a nice sum of money to help kick off the campaign. And I hope you will join Tom in supporting the Make Waves campaign. All right. And just maybe right after the break, because I'll ramble a little bit longer, maybe right after the break, I will go through the names of donors so far. This is called a soft launch. We haven't done all the major campaign things that you might expect, because behind the scenes there's an effort to raise money from institutional donors as well, the big foundations in charities to help pay for this. WHAV today, unlike the time Tom and I worked together at the old WHAV, WHAV today is a nonprofit corporation, and for most people, everything can be deducted on your taxes. But the lawyers here say, I have to tell you, please consult your tax advisor, just in case some of you are multimillionaires with 15 homes and have run out of deductions. But for most people, your contributions to WHAV's Make Waves campaign are tax deductible. Well, so there's a little bit of something. Nate confirms that this is the last week of February, so we're taking your birthday wishes and your anniversary wishes only until 8:15. So be sure to call. Very easy. Don't be shy. Wish someone. You can wish yourself. We don't have a rule against it. Wish yourself a happy birthday or a happy anniversary. Wish your neighbor. I don't know, dogs and cats. I don't know. That maybe that's stretching it a bit, but if your name is drawn or the recipient's name is drawn at 8:15, well, it was all worth it, thanks to our good friends at LBD Second Generation Italian Bakery. All right. Again, if you're just joining us, coming up right after the news at 7:05, special guest this evening, Megan Shea and Christina Mazzone. Christina is with the group Haverhill Against Heroin. I have been looking forward to learning more about this group. Maybe some of you are on Facebook as well. Well, that's where this group has accumulated 4,000 followers or so. So we really want to hear what's going on with Haverhill Against Heroin. And they're also going to discuss Learn to Cope, an information session Wednesday, and I believe also on the agenda is a little discussion about a free film showing at the Haverhill Public Library this Thursday. So it's going to be pretty action-packed, I think, this evening. What about the demolition on Merrimack Street? WHAV.net has some nice photos. Nate added to those photos, so we'll flash those on the screen a bit before we go to break. But it's for the first time in 40 years since urban renewal, we're seeing major demolition activity downtown. This time, however, the good news is there are buildings proposed to go up in place of the ones they're taking down. So Harbor Place, going to be a 4 or 5 story building in the corner, White's Corner, where Woolworth stands now. And then to the right of that, going up Merrimack Street, going west on Merrimack Street, 80 units of housing. So it's a very big project. 2 buildings are now completely gone. The former optometry practice of Dr. Frederick Rose and the former Ocasio's True Martial Arts Academy. Those buildings are gone. The second one, Ocasio's, came down over the weekend. Maybe you have some thoughts. A lot of people have been calling saying they remember bowling there and going to W.T. Grant's before they moved to Westgate Center. Maybe someone can tell us about the history of the Bonin building. Oh, maybe that's a job for our open mic show historian, David Godswood, who just went into a panic when I said that. But Ron Trombley, manager of the Greater Haverhill Foundation, and of course many of you know Ron as a banker for many years with Family Bank. Ron, in his retirement, decided to help out, and he's manager of the Greater Haverhill Foundation, which is one of the 3 partners or so in the Harbor Place project. You may recall Greater Haverhill Foundation bought the Woolworth building, and then, of course, we had that terrible economic collapse in 2008, but things are looking up. So why don't we talk more about that when we come back after a very brief break? Get those birthdays and anniversaries ready. Get those memories of Merrimack Street ready. And if you wouldn't mind, get your checkbooks ready. We'll be back with more of the Open Mic Show after this.
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
Would you like to hear the WAV on your stereo, or even better, anywhere in your home? Check out the tips for better sound at www.whav.net.
Catch the wave!
On air or online, WHAV serves you. All day long, keep up to date with tenacious but objective local reporting from the only Haverhill-based news source. Find out about civic and charitable events on Community Spotlight every quarter hour, and better prepare with WAV weather heard every 30 minutes. For talk, there's Tom Hartman weekdays at noon, the Open Mic Show every Monday night, and David Packman Tuesday through Friday nights. And there's more. Hear classic comedy and drama 7 nights a week at 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. Finally, a unique blend of soft gold music radiates day and night. Only local radio can bring you this combination of music, news, and features, but only WHAV does.
Today is February 23rd. On this day in 1903, Isabella Stewart Gardner's newly completed home and museum was opened to the public for the first time. The grand building on the Fenway was the realization of Mrs. Gardner's dream to give Bostonians the chance to experience the work of the great masters. She herself had traveled all over the world, first to visit works of art and then to collect them. Enormously wealthy, she built a museum modeled on the Venetian palaces she so admired. Strong-willed and high-spirited, she was a flamboyant figure on Boston's social scene. She threw elaborate parties, attended boxing matches, baseball games, and horse races. The museum she left the city remains one of its greatest cultural treasures. For more about Isabella Stewart Gardner, go online to massmoments.org. This Massachusetts Moment has been brought to you by the Massachusetts Foundation for the Humanities.
Some gold favorites, the most music. WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
This hour of the Open Mic Show is being brought to you by Haverhill Bank. Just one bank. Thanks for coming back to the Open Mic Show, where tonight we are beginning to make waves. I'm afraid if you get sick of that pun while you're going to have a tough time of it, because we're going to use a lot of make waves. But first, maybe it's a small wave. We have a birthday cake or anniversary cake wish. You're on the Open Mic Show.
And it's time to wish the March birthdays. And I have one for you, and that's JJ.
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 Now, you're really trying to confuse me now. Man, woman, dog, cat, what?
Well, I was going to tell you. Jayliana. What's that sound like to you?
Jayliana? I'm going to assume a woman.
Yes, she is.
Now, I've joked with you for years, probably very inappropriately, that you have like 250 girls hanging around you. The men are calling this show wanting to know your secret.
I like girls.
All right. Well, but you also have all their names. You must have you must have kept. Maybe this goes back to your high school days. You must have kept a rather comprehensive black book.
Well, you know what's funny about high school is since Facebook, I know more of my classmates now than I did when I was in school.
You know what? That's an interesting thought. I think I might be joining you in that idea. I think in high school, you're in your homeroom and then whatever number of classes, and then multiply that by 4 years if you went all 4 years. That's really not a lot of people, is it?
Not really.
Not really.
Plus, on top of that, I was extremely shy. People don't believe me. They laugh at me when I say how shy I still am.
Are you? Wow.
It's true.
Well, all right. So when is, I've already forgotten the name. I'll just say JJ's birthday.
Yeah, that's a nickname. She's got a couple of them.
She's got a couple of birthdays?
She's got a couple of nicknames.
Okay.
And you knew that. And, and her birthday is going to be on March 21st.
March 21st.
And she's going to be 9.
She's going to be 9?
So what does that tell you about me, huh?
All right. Well, then you're grandfatherly.
Yep.
All right. We kept it really nice there. All right. So I apologize to you. I think you called one of those nights or maybe a day before one of those nights we weren't on the air, and I try to keep up with my emails, but I don't know if you do this. But, of course, I get all my emails on the computer, and my voicemails also go to the computer. I think you actually called me, but I receive it as a voicemail. And I put a little red check next to the box that says priority. And I have 200 of those checked.
Yes, so much for priority. Well, see, the thing is, last week I didn't read the whole article on the wavelengths, and if I had, I would have realized that you were going to be having the presidents, and I thought that you were going to do some presidents' trivia.
Oh, I see.
And then I tuned in and discovered that it was all about the presidents, and
well,
I got them all, except for the last one, because that cut off, because they went back to HC Media.
Oh, I see. Yes, okay. Yeah, we ran behind. Well, actually, I was here, but there was an automation error which played 2 songs, which basically pushed I think they played 2 songs around 7 o'clock, which pushed the ending of the program out 10 minutes, which means it got cut off.
Yep.
But that was an experiment.
I listened.
So did you like that? I have to say I had never listened to the program. It was from the late 40s, early 50s on ABC radio, and they apparently it won all kinds of if not awards, credits for being well researched. And they would have the actor Edmund Arnold play every president, but they wouldn't tell you which president he was playing until the end.
The very last line of the dialogue, yep.
There you are. So you, who was the last one? Was that Theodore Roosevelt?
I don't know.
Well, that was an experiment. We usually run a rerun, but it was President's Day, and I thought, well,
Very
maybe.
timely.
What's that?
Very timely for President's Day.
Yeah, I thought it might be a nice idea to try it. So we'll see what happens. In the future, I really don't want to take Mondays off, whether they're holidays or snow days or what have you, because, radio is an important medium. People rely on it. They may rely on it just for the weather forecast. They may rely on it for companionship. And I do think there's a certain obligation for all of us to do this. The biggest problem I have is that when Haverhill Community Television takes off the video, there are some people who don't bother to go check their phones or computers. They just assume it's not on.
Yeah.
And maybe that will change with FM 97.9. Hey, do you want to try that out? You did a little promo for us a few weeks back. Maybe it's a few months now. Let's hear in your best WRAZ radio voice, WHAV 97.9 FM.
WHAV 97.9 FM.
That sounds pretty good. You know what we really needed? That sounded like one of those voices on the old WJIB. We need the ding-ding and some seagulls in the background.
Oh, yeah, the jib.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, the thing is, though, I have probably 100 different voices.
You do?
I do.
I'd like to do radio drama, live radio drama sometime. Maybe you'd be interested in participating. Oh,
we had fun with Mr. Johnson in speech class, and we'd have those little mini courses with the Wallensack tape recorder.
Yes.
Remember that?
I do. Those tube recorders, and they played the 7-inch reels. You realize that there's like 2 generations of people who have no idea what we're talking about?
Yeah, that's right. Well, not to mention the old commercials and such that said, in the news today, a dog catcher's wagon fell over and 100 dogs raced crazily through the fields of a well-known tobacco plantation. Friends, does your cigarette taste different lately?
Oh, geez, yes.
Remember that?
I didn't actually remember it, but it brings back some jingles to mind, too. Which, I guess we're not allowed to even mention them anymore, but there were some interesting jingles that people remember.
Well, I remember the old Andy Moss commercials on WHAV.
It's funny. That came up just yesterday or today. We spent forever trying to locate the King Davis commercial, and we achieved it, but we're never satisfied here. Now we got to find the Andy Moss commercial.
Yeah. Well, and he left it the same for years and years.
That's right. All right. Looks like we have another caller we're going to try to squeeze in before. Anything else on your mind?
No, I was just wondering about any possible grants for the FM tower.
Yeah, well, we're certainly working on that. This campaign, as I said, kind of got off rather quickly because the FCC, frankly, somewhat unexpectedly issued the license on January 9th. We've all heard horror stories that, it'll be years, Tim. You don't wait around for that. And then it's granted. So we're rather hastily getting organized with that campaign. But no, I hope we'll be announcing some big foundation grants to take the pressure off the rest of us, right?
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your call.
Okay, and that's a happy birthday to JJ, and that's March 21st, which is the same day as my fundraiser, so she won't be able to make it. So.
Oh, all right. Then actually, let's maybe talk a little bit later.
That's my little segue.
Okay, yes, I do want to follow up on that. There'll be a fundraiser. Hey, give us the quick information on that.
Well, the quick information on that is that there will be a fundraiser for me. That's the Brian Langlois Relief Fund at Haverhill Bank, just one bank.
Very good. And the event
that's going to be at the Crescent Yacht Club, 30 Ferry Street in Bradford.
Crescent Yacht Club, 30 Ferry Street on March
21st at 2 in the afternoon.
All right. We'll make a note of that. And we'll make up a slide, too, and we'll get something else. March 21st, 2 p.m., Crescent Yacht Club. You know what? I just had one paper over another, so I wrote this across two papers, two sheets. All right. Well, thank you very much, and we'll talk more about that and explain to the listeners more about the backstory there.
Okay, Tim.
Thanks so much.
You have a good evening.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
All right. We're, of course, tied up against news as always, but we're going to try to get in a call from our good friends at Kimball Tavern Antiques. You're on the Open Mic Show.
I think I got a minute up in Sandown to catch the boys. They got 1 minute. Happy birthday to Shane up there. It's going off at 7. He'll be 41 in March 2nd.
Shane, 41, March 2nd.
And I want to say hi to Kyle and Cody. The grandkids are going up to Gunstock for the couple days, do some snowboarding.
Oh, great. And Nate has...
let's hope they, come back in one piece.
All right, well.
And I'm going to straighten out that question. You've got the answer you said to what's the answer you got there?
Well, you want me to give out the answer?
Well, yeah, I'm going to get rid of that. I've got another one. I know you got some guests coming on, so I want to.
All right. I gave it to Nate. Okay, there it is. The answer was The Byrds.
The Byrds, and what was the name of the song?
He was a friend of mine.
That's right. That was a song written for John F. Kennedy by the Byrds after he got assassinated.
Okay.
So you don't hear it on the airways too much. It's either he was a friend of mine or I had a friend. I think it was he was a friend of mine.
All right.
By the famous group The Byrds.
I feel like Karnak, old Johnny Carson, where I have the answer. Where do urologists go to skate? What's the name? On Golden Pond.
There you go. So I've got another one. This is a good one. Now, Marcel should do some homework on this one. John Greenleaf Whittier, famous poet from Haverhill, Massachusetts. He frequented 2 towns on his vacations in New Hampshire. Name those 2 towns. You have to name those 2 towns. And also in New Hampshire, there's a bridge called the Whittier Bridge. What town is the Whittier Bridge in? And also, what number is the highway? There's a highway in New Hampshire named the Whittier Highway. What route is it?
All right, not to be confused with the Whittier Highway in Haverhill.
Not to be confused with the 95 bridge, the Whittier Bridge going over to Merrimack.
All right, so here's
This is all Cow Hampshire.
Okay, 3-part question, all related to Whittier in the state of New Hampshire.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your generosity. I don't know if you were listening a couple weeks ago, but we were giving away a lot of baseball cards. And
we heard. I hope they come in and get them.
Yeah, people are very happy. Well, actually, we have them here. You already gave them to us.
Yeah.
So we'll mail them out.
So who you got coming on?
All right. We have coming up right after the news, just a couple minutes from now, Megan Shea and Christine Mazzone, and I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly, are going to be talking about the heroin problem and some things that are coming up.
That's good. I'm interested in this.
All right. Well, thank you very much. So we're not too late for news. We'll go to news, and then if you have any more feedback.
All right.
But as always, we appreciate the generosity of Kimball Tavern Antiques, the corner of Salem and South Main Streets in Bradford.
I just hope that somebody can do a little homework, because that's a Haverhill trivia.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I like it too. I mean, I learned this from somebody, so that's how you learn things. I had no idea that Whittier was. He loved these 2 towns in New Hampshire.
I know that, and yeah, I think you're
Go ahead.
You're going to stump some Whittier fans too.
Well, that's all right. All right, I'll let you go.
All right, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Take care. Okay, we're just a little bit late for news. We're going to have local news with WHAV News Director Dana Esmel and national news from FSN. You'll hear quite a bit there, all jammed into just a few minutes. Local weather, and then we'll be back with more of the Open Mic Show and our guests. Stay tuned.
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
It's 7:04.
WHAV Merrimack Valley. WHAV is a not-for-profit service of Public Media of New England Incorporated. It's heard on 1640 AM, the web, at whav.net, and participating cable television stations.
Here's what's happening in local news. The Haverhill City Council is set to revisit a request for a special permit to allow used car sales at a garage near the intersection of East Broadway and Groveland Street. The request from Devin Tucker, doing business as Ideal Service Center, is to allow a 10-car sales lot on the premises at 79 East Broadway. The council postponed action on January 20 for referral to the Board of Appeals, as recommended by Building Inspector Richard Osborne. Last week, that panel voted 4-1 in favor to allow used car sales on property zoned for a commercial motor vehicle repair service station. The property is designated as a CN zoning district. In a letter to the council last month, Haverhill Police Chief Alan R. Denaro said, in his opinion, increasing commercial use of the property, quote, will negatively impact the neighborhood as a whole, end quote. The Haverhill City Council meets at 7 p.m. Tuesday in council chambers at Haverhill City Hall. A Haverhill man is due to face drug-related and assault charges after his arrest by Haverhill police Sunday night. According to police, Edward Alica, 37, of Haverhill, was arrested at 9:20 p.m. Sunday at 267 Washington Street. He is charged with assault with a dangerous weapon to a witness, malicious damage, and possession of Class B and E substances. He is due to be arraigned in Haverhill District Court. A Haverhill woman faces drug-related charges in court following her arrest Sunday afternoon. Haverhill Police report Drew Camille, 49, of Haverhill, was taken into custody at 2:30 p.m. Sunday at 7 Rose Street. She is charged with possession of a Class E substance and conspiracy to violate drug laws. A Haverhill man is due to be arraigned in court on a third drunk driving offense, according to Haverhill Police. Paul St. George, 60, of Haverhill, was arrested at 9:15 p.m. Saturday at the intersection of Canosa and Humphrey Streets. He is charged with operating a motor vehicle under the influence of liquor, third offense, an open container violation, and a license restriction violation. In other police news, 2 Haverhill women were arrested separately on Saturday under outstanding warrants. Haverhill Police report Jessica C. Cizizo, 29, of Haverhill, was taken into custody at 2:45 p.m. Saturday at 50 High Street. She is charged with 2 counts of sex for a fee and trespassing. In an unrelated arrest, Sigeri Ramos, 23, of Haverhill, was taken into custody at 11 a.m. Saturday on Stage Street. Under 5 outstanding warrants, she is charged with larceny by check, larceny by false pretense, reckless endangerment to a child, disorderly conduct, and threats. No further details were available by deadline. In local high school sports, no scheduled matches on Monday for the Haverhill Hillies. Remember, WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source, and it's always free. In the Edwin V. Johnson newsroom, this is Dana Esmail.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. Officials in France have seized the passports of 6 citizens who were allegedly trying to travel to Syria to join the Islamic State. The confiscated passports are out of use for at least 6 months, and Prime Minister Manuel Valls says he expects more seizures to come. In a previous statement, the Prime Minister said some 1,400 people in France have joined the Islamic State or intend to in the future. The Palestinian Authority and the PLO, or Palestine Liberation Organization, face fines of more than $600 million after a jury in New York found them liable for terror attacks in Israel in which Americans were killed or injured. The jury's award could be financially crippling for the Palestinians, as our U.S. correspondent Simon Marks reports.
The decision ends a 10-year legal battle waged by American victims of the 6 attacks which took place in Israel between 2002 and 2004. The jury delivered a massive victory to the victims' families and a stunning blow to the Palestinian Authority and the PLO. Their liability carries a penalty of $218 million in damages that's automatically tripled under the terrorism law under which the case was brought. Despite denials by top Palestinian officials, the court heard evidence that Palestinian Authority employees were involved in planning, financing and carrying out the attacks.
Greece is set to submit a list of reform measures to be approved by the European Union before Eurozone finance ministers can agree to extend its bailout program. Athens is under pressure to agree to some austerity conditions in exchange for 4 months of extra time to negotiate another rescue package, despite Greece's new government's opposition to more spending cuts. The new U.S. Defense Secretary is holding a 6-hour meeting in Kuwait to discuss the strategy to deal with the Islamic State. Ashton Carter says he wants to better understand the Obama administration's approach to a very complicated problem. From Washington, Daniel Wrenches reports.
The top U.S. generals and diplomats attending this marathon strategy session have been told not to bring pre-prepared presentations and to talk off the cuff. Defense Secretary Carter says he's not planning any immediate changes, only to understand the strategy. The Obama administration is coming under pressure mainly from Republicans who argue that the approach is too limited, as concerns are raised about the spread of the Islamic State beyond Iraq and Syria.
Top-level nuclear talks between the U.S. and Iran have resumed in Geneva amid mounting criticism of the Obama administration's tactics. An initial deal is meant to be hammered out by a March 31st deadline, with negotiators from both sides, including U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, trying to reconcile the gulf between them. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Wave weather.
I'm WHAV meteorologist Gary Best with Wave Weather. It's generally clear and very cold across the Merrimack Valley through the night. Low temperature 3 to 8 below zero. During the day on Tuesday, sunshine followed by clouds in the teens through the afternoon. Maybe some flurries around Tuesday night in the teens then. And a return of sunshine for Wednesday afternoon. High temperature close to 32. Fair and cold on Thursday. This is Gary Best. Your next Wave Weather coming up in 30 minutes.
This is Phil Christie. Would you like to hear the wave on your stereo, or even better, anywhere in your home? Check out the tips for better sound at www.whav.net.
WHAV, Merrimack Valley, open mic.
From the Edwin B. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
Welcome back to the Open Mic Show, a 50-year staple of democracy in the Merrimack Valley. This hour of the Open Mic Show is being brought to you by Haverhill Bank, just one bank. Now joining me in the studio, closest to me, Megan Shea, that I've known for, 20 years or so. When she was, okay, and then and then Christine Mazzone, who I have not met, but I have been anxious to meet because I am a follower of your webpage on Facebook, Haverhill Against Heroin, and always kind of wondered the backstory, and maybe we'll have some time for all that. I'm just going to ask you both to get as close to your mics as you can, despite our crowded situation. All right, let's start with Megan.
Okay.
You brought to my attention your involvement, because Megan's involved in so much all the time, and I suppose I should not have been surprised. But you're involved in an effort, and why don't we start with why you're here tonight and what you're trying to accomplish?
Well, I think the main reason is we're the UU Church in Haverhill is sponsoring an information session for Learn to Cope. Now, this actually came about because Haverhill Against Heroin had an information session, an awareness session at the church the last of January.
Yeah.
And we had 30 folks that came through a snowy night to come be with us, and it was wonderful. And as we talked with some of the family members there, we had a representative from Learn to Cope, Kathy Day, who's the regional director of Learn to Cope. And I think the parents were interested in finding out more about Learn to Cope and maybe bringing a Learn to Cope chapter here to Haverhill. The closest chapters right now for families to go to are in Tewksbury and Lowell. And I know Christina has been to the Tewksbury meeting.
Tewksbury chapter, yeah.
Yeah, and this is it's a peer-to-peer type support group. Many times it's somebody that's been there that can give you the best idea or best advice on substance abuse and what to do. And so Learn to Cope has developed this peer-to-peer model where parents are helping one another in weekly meetings.
All right. So these are family members
Yeah.
of persons who are addicted.
Yes.
Yes.
And the family members counsel each other.
They counsel one another. They do bring in professionals to talk about any of the professional needs, because these folks obviously are lay people. They're not professionals, but they do know what families go through, because really an addict's family goes through almost as much, if not more, than the addict, because it is a great deal of effort to get individuals realizing they need treatment and support. And it's really the families that oftentimes intervene to get the addict at least to the stages of accepting they need help. The peer-to-peer advising is really one of the key components with Learn to Cope. They also have a 24/7 online support group, so individuals that in the middle of the night feel stuck, they can go online and get some support. And one thing that they're known of, they're the first in the nation that have become a peer-to-peer group that is that can do Narcan training. Narcan being a substance that can be administered to an individual that has overdosed, and it helps the brain release the opiates in the head and give them a little bit of time for the emergency personnel to come online and be there of support.
About a 20-minute window after administered.
Yeah, those of you who listen to WHAV regularly will probably remember that we've had a number of news reports as Narcan has been released to police and emergency staffs, and they've been trained on how to use this. It's an inhalant, is that right?
It is administered through the nose, yeah.
Right.
Maybe not the right
There
term.
there is an injectable kind too, which is a little more potent, but the nasal kind is what's usually used.
All right. So Learn to Cope. Megan, how did you learn of the group?
Well, when I worked with the Northeast Center for Healthy Communities, I learned a little bit about Learn to Cope. But it started in 2004. A mother who had a son that was struggling with addiction couldn't really figure out the system and how to get the services for her son. And just out of desperation, she said, I think I can come up with a better way, at least to find this peer-to-peer support so we can kind of figure out how do you navigate the system. There are just so many pieces, some of them working well together, some of them working in different silos. And that's the biggest frustration with families looking for support. And of course, Christina, we're very fortunate to have Christina here to talk about it. She's taken dozens of individuals in for treatment. She's been very active in being kind of a lifeline for folks in Haverhill that are seeking the support to get into treatment and getting into recovery.
All right, I'll tell you what, we'll pick it up with Christina in just a second. We're going to take a brief break for Community Spotlight. I don't know what's in the rotation, but it might very well be one of the events you're sponsoring. So we'll be back with Christina Mazzone and Megan Shea on the Open Mic Show in just one moment.
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. Enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
Listen to The Wave with fewer interruptions, no pop-ups, and a choice of players by tuning directly from www.whav.net.
Community Spotlight is brought to you by Haverhill Bank. Haverhill Bank is a generous supporter of the area's civic and cultural programs.
All it takes is just one bank. Haverhill Bank. Community Spotlight.
The Mood Swings Orchestra performs at Pentucket High School as a fundraiser for the Pentucket Music Boosters. The event, which includes a silent auction, takes place at 7 p.m. Saturday, February 28th at Groveland Fairways, 156 Main Street, Groveland. Tickets are $35. send checks to Pentucket Music Boosters, P.O. Box 23, West Newbury, 01985. For more information, call 978-363-2142. Someone you know is on WHAV. To submit or read your own nonprofit announcements, click on the Contact tab at whav.net or email news@whav.net. In the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, this is Sarah Tizo.
WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
Welcome back to the Open Mic Show. This hour of the Open Mic is being brought to you by Haverhill Bank. Just one bank. Okay, back with our guests. We're discussing Learn to Cope. At least that's part one of our discussion, Learn to Cope. And this group, according to Megan, is it's open to the public for people who want to learn more about working in a peer-to-peer support arrangement. So this is going to be March 4th. That's a Wednesday. That's next week. That's a short month. Next Wednesday, keep that in mind, next Wednesday, March 4th, 7 o'clock at the Universalist Unitarian Church in Haverhill. Most of us know it as Canosa Avenue, but the access is from Ashland Street on the other side, 16 Ashland Street. And according to this flyer, discover the power of working together to build support, resources, and hope with families affected by substance abuse. And this is sponsored by, this is a great segue to our next part, sponsored by Haverhill Against Heroin. You can learn about this group, by the way, by going to learn2cope.org. Learn2cope.org. All right, Christina, I've suddenly became aware on Facebook, I don't know, a few months back, about your Facebook, is it a page or a group?
It's an open page. It's a community page, so anyone can see the information, even if they don't hit the like button. If somebody is struggling with addiction, and they don't want people to know that, oh, I like the page Haverhill Against Heroin, they can still get the resources off the page.
Now, Haverhill Against Heroin, who is it directed to? Is it directed to everybody? People who want to learn?
Yeah. People that want to learn, awareness, learn how to get help, everything. And it's not just Haverhill. I have people all over Massachusetts and even some in New Hampshire that are actually on the page as well.
Okay, because WHAV serves Andover, Haverhill, Methuen, Plastow, and Sandown, New Hampshire.
Awesome.
All right. So what led you to start the page?
Honestly, I am a recovering addict to opiates.
Are you?
I've been in recovery since June 16th of 2014. And the page was started up in late November, early December last year. We started to lose so many people that we knew from high school that we never crossed paths again until it was too late. I lost a friend. I lost an ex-boyfriend from high school. I didn't know how to handle it. And one morning I woke up and I'm like, I need to do something. I need to draw awareness. I need to try and help people and fix it. And then around 8:30 in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning, it's when Haverhill Against Heroin was made, the page. And within the first hour, it had over 1,000 likes and everybody was on board. So,
wow, that is quite a success story. So when I first saw it, really was around the time it started.
Yeah.
And so you must either be a social media master or or it is a very big concern, or some combination of both?
It's both.
Oh,
It's both.
That's interesting. Well, I have to tell you that WHAV News launched an expanded news operation last year, very complete website coverage with text and on-air coverage. We hired a news director, and one of the things, and it may be kind of sad to point it out this way, but we're in the unique position of being able to look at the police reports and the obituaries.
Yes.
And although family members often do not want to talk about it, we often can see what's happening. We can see how a name moved from one page to another. And it was startling to see so many young people. And then there were reports, and I'm always reluctant to say anything more than reports, because I don't know that we ever had a toxicology report, but understanding there was an older couple in Bradford
Yes.
that passed away.
Around Christmas, yes. I
So
remember
this is pretty serious stuff. I asked someone, I'm going to ask you, did heroin reemerge? We hear these stories about the 60s and early 70s, but then we didn't hear about it. Or was it driven underground for years?
Well, heroin's never completely ever gone away, and I honestly believe that it never will. If people are interested, they can look up on YouTube. It was issued a statewide epidemic in 2004, issued a statewide epidemic in 2010. And here we are again, 2014. It was issued a statewide epidemic. 2015 we're in now. In 2014, it was issued again a statewide epidemic. And it's like, how many more times is it going to be issued an epidemic for something actually is taking place and happens?
Well, I was pleased is the right word, but I noticed a lot of families don't want to talk about it, but I have seen a few families step up. At least two instances in recent months. There was the incident with the former school department employee whose son, Nicholas, I think, passed away, and he was willing to go forward and talk about it. And there was another family that didn't do too much publicly, but put in the obituary. Sometimes you'll just see after a brief illness, and they said after a lifelong battle with addiction. And so every now and then, what are your thoughts? You think families, or maybe you think it's an individual choice, but you think families do a public service by coming forward and talking about these things, or what would you say?
In a way, yes, but a lot of people are reserved because they don't know how to handle it themselves, and they don't know if they really want to put it out in the public eye of what they're really suffering and what they're still suffering and will probably ever suffer for, as long as they are existing, the loss of a loved one to an overdose. But my biggest thing on the page, it's not to exploit people, but is to break the stigma that it does affect every walk of life. It does not discriminate who you are or where you come from or what walk of life you do come from and whatnot. So I think it's more of they're coping in silence and they're not ready. They're not ready to accept it. It's like they just don't want to put it out there maybe.
Do you run across people who say, all these terrible things just happened to me, whether it was my spouse, my son, my daughter, but are otherwise maybe in some form of denial? No, I don't need any help. I don't need any counseling. Is there a telltale sign that you tell them that, well, if you're experiencing this, maybe you would benefit this fill in the blank? Maybe you would benefit by going to Learn to Cope or sharing your story? Is there anything that's common to people who are suffering in silence?
I encourage the people to break the silence if they can, if they feel that they're strong enough to do so. And I do give them the resources that they need. And I also offer a 24-hour helpline even if it's just a vent or if they, want a resource of a detox center or something.
What is that number?
That number is 978-457-0546.
Okay, listeners, 24 hours, help center, and you answer it.
Only me.
Only you. 978-457-0546. 978-457-0546. You can call Christina anytime and share, vent.
Share, vent, if you're in crisis mode and which just happened this past Friday and you needed a way to get to the hospital or a detox center, or if you are struggling with the situation with your family member and you don't know how to deal with it, if you just need advice, anytime. I get hours up, phone calls up until 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm on phones for hours, and
Before we take a break for weather, how can people who are concerned help you? Money for the phones? An assistant? Do you take contributions?
Honestly, a lot of people ask if I do accept donations and contributions or anything of a sort. I actually don't at this time. Megan suggested I do in the future, but everything I do is actually out of pocket. It's not that it's a proud thing. It's more that I want people to know that there's someone out there that cares, that's not expecting anything back in return from them.
I see.
You know what I mean?
I think folks will tell you that if you're committed to the cause without the money, that strengthens the cause. And I think
really? I never looked at it that way.
There are a lot of issues, especially around substance abuse. You need to wrap folks around the cause and be part of the solution. And the whole issue of stigma and discussion is such a big deal. And without that connection, that's where the power of Learn to Cope is. Families joining forces and talking it out, they realize they're not alone. There are a lot of other folks that are suffering that, and there are ways to kind of talk through and strategize, because it's kind of hopeless when you're by yourself.
Yep, and they don't have to suffer in silence anymore, and there's people that know exactly what they're going through because they've either been through it or lived it themselves.
All right. Tell you what, we're going to take a break for weather. Let me just reiterate 2 pieces of information, and then we'll hope to have your phone calls, if you'll take phone calls.
Oh, definitely.
Sure. All right. So first of all, let's talk about next week and then this week. Next week, Wednesday, March 4th, 7 o'clock in the evening, of course. I hope everyone thinks 7 o'clock for me is the middle of the night, if it was the morning. But anyway, Wednesday, March 4th, 7 o'clock at the Universalist Unitarian Church. Most people think it's Canosa Avenue, but take the backside, Ashland Street, and go to this information session about Learn to Cope. This week, this Thursday, 6 o'clock, at the Haverhill Public Library Auditorium, there is a showing of a documentary called The Anonymous People. All right. Nate, we're going to take a brief break first for weather, and then we're going to take these phone calls, and we'll see how much we can accomplish in the next few minutes.
Of course.
All right, we'll be back with more of the Open Mic Show after this local weather forecast.
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
It's 7:33.
WHAV is on Facebook. For quick access, visit whav.net and click on the Facebook icon.
Catch the wave!
Hi, I'm meteorologist Gary Best. Do you need to know if it's going to be hot or cold, wet or dry? Well, find out every half hour, 7 days a week with WAVE Weather. I'll keep you in touch with up-to-the-minute reports covering the greater Merrimack Valley and beyond. It's WHAV for accurate weather when you want it.
WAVE Weather!
I'm WHAV meteorologist Gary Best with WAV weather. It's generally clear and very cold across the Merrimack Valley through the night. Low temperature 3 to 8 below zero. During the day on Tuesday, sunshine followed by clouds in the teens through the afternoon. Maybe some flurries around Tuesday night in the teens then, and a return of sunshine for Wednesday afternoon. High temperature close to 32, fair and cold on Thursday. This is Gary Best. Your next WAV weather coming up in 30 minutes.
Catch the wave. WHAV. Open mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
We're back for the Open Mic Show. This hour of the Open Mic is being brought to you by the Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council. Smart companies choose the Merrimack Valley. Okay, we're going to go to the telephones now. Well, Nate, nothing on this one. On yours? There's nothing here. All right, so if the listener who is waiting to talk wants to just give us a quick call back, or someone else wants to take their place in queue, 978-374-1900. Don't be shy. Don't be worried. You have a question, call, and our assistants here, Megan Shea and Christina Mazzone, will talk about answer your questions. All right, so we're just going through the queue now. All right, let's talk about The Anonymous People. It's a documentary, and it's in conjunction with HOPE. This is the Mayor's Task Force?
Yep.
Yeah.
The HOPE.
All right, and HOPE stands for?
Haverhill Opiate Prevention and Education.
Okay. All right.
Exactly.
So this will be at the Haverhill Public Library this Thursday, the 26th, 6 p.m. And this, let's read this briefly then. The Public Library, in conjunction with the HOPE Task Force, will be screening this award-winning documentary film about the 23.5 million Americans living in long-term recovery from alcohol and other drug addiction. The Anonymous People is told through the faces and voices of the leaders, volunteers, corporate executives, and celebrities who are laying it all on the line to save the lives of others just like them. And that sounds a lot like what you're doing as well. With these
I think
events.
it's all about, we're all kind of working together. This is all about raising the awareness, but also kind of opening the door for talking. This really works on stigmas and trying to break that, because there's it's kind of a double or triple-edged sword if you think about it. There's a certain amount of embarrassment, a certain amount of hopelessness and frustration, and really the more you can kind of ease folks into talking about what's going on, it kind of helps everybody understand what the issue is and how they can help and how we can all work together.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Megan, during the break, you were showing me some statistics that, frankly, were rather surprising. Can you share those with our listeners now? Tell us about the trends in addiction, and then the age groups, which really surprised me.
The admissions for substance abuse overdoses locally in Haverhill for ages 15 to 24 has increased 21% between 2009 and 2013. And the surprising number is the number of individuals 50 and older has increased some 80%, I think, is what it, 87%. So it's really not...
People ages 50 and up have gone up. Now, what do we count? This is a hospitalization?
These are admissions. It could be multiple substances that are being used, but it's hospitalizations for substance abuse or a substance overdose. And so even in talking with the hospital, trying to do more background to try and figure out what are the issues, the hospital admits there's a lot of older folks that we don't really think about. And police department is very vocal about the fact that it's a whole range of individuals that they are called out to visit. And I think Lieutenant Barbieri made a very good point in a conference I was at a few weeks ago, that everybody lives within a stone's throw of somebody that he's been called or they've been called to administer either Narcan or, the emergency call. It's really throughout all the neighborhoods in Haverhill. It's not just the Acre or Mount Washington. It's everywhere. I think the chief should be commended. He has a very good video on his website of warning signs and what to do. They encourage you to call TCA. They're a treatment center. We know that Whittier Pavilion is also a treatment center, and we know that the hospital has a soap and treatment center too.
The TCA on Winter Street?
On Winter Street across from the Y.
That's a team coordinating agency.
Yes.
On Winter Street across from the Y. And then Whittier Pavilion on Summer Street near City Hall, the former Whittier Rehab Hospital, which is now in Ward Hill.
Yeah.
All right, and I'm sorry, what else?
Well, the hospital also has outpatient services too.
Okay.
And substance abuse services.
That's interesting. All right, let's repeat this number again. If you're someone at home who perhaps is suffering in silence with a loved one, a spouse, a son or daughter, maybe a grandchild, and you're witnessing some things that concern you, you can get support with the Learn to Cope program. Correct me on anything if I'm wrong. On the Learn to Cope, and there's an information session to see if this is for you. This is Wednesday, March 4th, 7 o'clock. That's next week, next Wednesday, March 4th, 7 o'clock, at the Universalist Unitarian Church, 16 Ashland Street. Most people are going to think of Canosa. Ashland is right behind the church. All right. Now, if someone has a more immediate need, maybe not even sure if they should go, they can call you. Is that right?
Yes.
978-457-0546.
Yep.
All right. I'm not quite sure what happened to that caller, but again, there maybe are stigmas attached still.
There is.
What is there anything that you can say, either one of you or both of you, that might help someone come to terms with the stigma and break the silence? Or is it just time for them?
And breaking the whole stigma thing. I mean, it affects everyone. People think, why me? I had an awesome life before this. Why me? It doesn't discriminate at all. And some people, kind of battle back and forth with what I'm about to say, that addiction is a disease, and it is recognized in many places as it is a disease. And a lot of people are very touchy on that, but it is, and it needs to be treated that way. And to every addiction, there is always an underlying cause or reason for that addiction. So detox or rehab is key, and then after services to find out what your underlying reason for your addiction was and treat those so you don't relapse. Friday was the 43rd person that I've helped get into a detox rehab hospital, and out of the 43, only 11 relapsed, and they're right back on track to recovery.
11?
Yeah.
Relapsed. Okay.
But honestly,
that sounds like a good statistic from...
One I did lose, and I did post on the page about Allie. I was mentoring her, and it's...
Well, pardon my ignorance, but maybe someone else out there listening or watching might have the same question. How do people even get exposed to this? Is it a peer thing? Is it heroin come up at parties? I don't know if I'm
It can come
just
up at
naive.
parties. It can come up at parties. It can come up at schools. It can come up with friends that you hang out with. They can happen to get into it. You can even have addictive parents and then it turns into, okay, maybe this is the way I should cope as well. And in real life, in real statistics, there are babies that are actually born into addiction.
Really?
And they are born addicted, and
Really
they go
sad.
through a very severe detox at the hospital, and because of the addiction, because of the parent was using it. And I'm not condoning anyone on when I say that, but so therefore it's always in their genes. Like, say, the baby was born addicted. Could become addicted again as a teenager.
And I think the young man that spoke at the forum that Hope had hosted in mid-January spoke very keenly about the fact that he had been given pain medication and realized sadly that he couldn't get off of it. Mm-hmm. And then the expense of that medication became prohibitive, and heroin is cheap.
And I had heard from someone, and I think it was after it was at Constantino School.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Someone said that, correct, if you disagree with this, let me know, but this person had a theory. It's a younger person who has been exposed to a number of these kinds of things, and he said that he believed that many people in his peer groups have turned to heroin because it is easier to get than some of the other drugs that police have managed to crack down more severely on.
Well, the drug tracking system now was created recently, where they're really trying to put a cap on how the drugs are distributed. They're actually trying to track the prescriptions, and so that's limited that diversion from your father or mother's medicine cabinet or from your grandparents' medicine cabinet into the street. And so that diversion has kind of dried up the supply and made the pills very expensive.
And not only that, but people that are addicted to painkillers, there comes a point in time where that painkiller is not strong enough, and someone either offers them heroin or suggests heroin, and they find out, oh great, heroin's stronger and it's cheaper and it's easier to get and everything else. So it's basically like a pain management type of thing.
Well, you've made awareness an issue, and in fact you seem to have done a very good job with this, because one of you mentioned a moment ago, I thought, that there was another big peak in 2004, and I don't recall this kind of conversation happening 10 years ago.
If you look on YouTube, it was a statewide epidemic in 2004. It was a statewide epidemic in 2010, and then they issued it again in 2014, and still nothing. What's
different this time, though, that we're talking about it on this show, and we're talking about it at Constantino School? What's different this time? Is it enough is enough, and there's a force, maybe even with yourself, to change what's happening? Or
I think we've been kind of stunned into action because the numbers now are overwhelming. And that's really what's created some of the additional blessing. I mean, it's you see that the gentleman that organized the Merrimack Valley Drug Prevention Coalition, Phil Leahy, talks about his family and his experience, and he says, I'm a white middle-class guy with a white middle-class family, and my daughter was addicted. And so, it knows no barriers. This really is cutting across a lot of different
And when you mention
genres.
the age groups, 87%
increase for those over 50.
Over 50. Incredible.
Yeah.
And,
and that's just general substance
yeah.
abuse in general, but it is amazing.
And it's more so the reason why it wasn't well known. Well, it's always been known, but it hasn't been brought into attention that it was a statewide epidemic back in 2004 and 2010. I mean, it's always been a problem. The numbers are still high in all of those years, but the fact is that it's actually come knocking on Haverhill, let alone Merrimack Valley's door. And we've lost so many people last year. Like, what was it, like 278 total? or for the whole state, but mainly most of them were mainly in the Merrimack Valley area. So I think that it's becoming more of aware, and people are more aware of what's going on because it's right in our backyard.
Well, this is...
and it is, I mean, the other thing to think about is, you know, you mentioned the Narcan, that the emergency responders are carrying Narcan. There's a great deal, if you talk to anybody in the emergency services, there's a great deal of responses one way or the other. There's frustration. You're just going to bring them back to abuse again, which is true. But there was a grant a few years ago called Mass Call, and their main goal was to keep them alive until they realize that they need treatment. And so that's where Narcan comes in. You're really reviving somebody's son or daughter, somebody's parent, to really kind of come back and kind of reassess where they are and hopefully get into treatment. They might need to go through Narcan or some kind of revival a couple of different times, but that's really the key component there that you see that we're seeing now. Emergency responders taking this on is a real key concern too.
And also a good thing to bring up is the Good Samaritan law that we now have in act, that if you're with someone that's overdosed, or if you're with someone that has it on them and has overdosed or whatnot, if you do call 911 or emergency services, you are not going to be in harm's way or charged or anything. Correct me if I'm wrong, or and whatnot. That's why it's called the Good Samaritan law.
And actually, it was introduced as a law, I would say, 3 or 4 years ago, or maybe a little bit longer, because they found the major barrier for folks to be revived was people's fear of calling the emergency response team to come to the house to revive the individual, because they knew they were going to get busted.
Okay.
And so if you take off that onus that no, unless you're actually dealing drugs, I mean, you still can't be doing anything illegal, but if you're trying to help your friend,
trying to help, you're not risking.
Right. And the key thing to remember is really to call 911 as soon as you see somebody
any
that's
signs
overdosed.
of an overdose.
All right, let's wrap up then. So this week, Thursday, February 26th, 6 o'clock, Haverhill Public Library Auditorium, showing of a documentary, The Anonymous People. Will you both be there?
Yes.
Of course.
And can people reach you there and ask about whatever they might want to ask you about?
Definitely.
I think there'll be a lot of individuals there that will have resources and information. So this is really just to really continue the conversation that was started in January.
All right, and then next Wednesday, March 4th, 7 o'clock, at the Universalist Unitarian Church in Haverhill, off Canosa Avenue. Use the Ashland Street entrance in the back. It's an information session on talking about creating a chapter of Learn to Cope right here in Haverhill.
Yes.
All right, so that's Wednesday, March 4th, 7 o'clock at the UU Church. And for more information about Learn to Cope, you can go to Learn, the number 2, Cope, C-O-P-E, all one word, .org. And one last time, if you're suffering in silence at home, you're watching this program, maybe a little worried, Christina will talk to you. You can call her directly anytime, 978-457-0546. Well, thank you both for coming on, and you are welcome back anytime.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you so much.
We would like to know more, and also at some point, not during the show, maybe get you to come back and record a community spotlight for any future events you have.
Would love to do that.
That'd be great.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we're going to be back with more of the Open Mic Show in just a minute. This hour, I believe we have a movie review, and kind of timely considering the Oscars last night. So stay with us, won't you?
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
Still not sure when your favorite features are broadcast? Check out the What's On page at www.whav.net for complete listings.
Smart companies choose the Merrimack Valley. They're attracted by the region's technology and innovation, housing and education, workforce, arts, culture, and recreation, and convenient location and easy access. Learn more and look at profiles of all 24 cities and towns at the Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council website at merrimackvalley.info.
Catch the wave!
Here! Don't forget your free ticket to the biggest theater in the world. Your seat is reserved for Modern Theater of the Mind every Tuesday night. WHAV presents Radio Theater Project, a new anthology series of comedies, dramas, mysteries, and science fiction. Tune in every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. or the encore performance at 1 a.m. Remember, only local radio can bring you this feature opportunity, but only WHAV does.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. This week, SpongeBob Bigger, Faster, Drier. It's been over a decade since the inhabitants of Bikini Bottom last graced the big screen, even as their small screen series has continued. This time out, the celebrity voices are gone, the plot is more, shall we say, flexible, and the entire affair more ragged, but in a good way. And, see the title, the SpongeBob movie Sponge Out of Water, we get to see Bob, Mr. Krabs, Plankton, Patrick et al. On land. The plot revolves around the disappearance of the formula for Bikini Bottom's favorite food, Krabby Patties. Actually, this is a subplot, since the pirate Burger Beard, brought to life as a live-action character by Antonio Banderas, can affect the other plot by writing in a magic book. Enter a time machine invented to go back to before the formula disappeared, but which ends up casting them into the future, where they meet Bubbles, a Shakespeare-spouting dolphin, who repays a favor by allowing the undersea folks to breathe on land, and you have a pretty good idea of the off-the-wall stream-of-consciousness hilarity that's in store. There's some wonderful sequences of the fun with fast food variety we're used to from the show, and another inside Bob's brain. The live-action scenes on land work, though you're kept waiting for them, and if you're a franchise purist, you might think they're a leap too far. You can probably take the kids. The SpongeBob movie Sponge Out of Water is lighter on the double entendre and the politics than the TV episodes, maybe too light. However, some of the early scenes depicting the apocalyptic consequences in the bottom associated with the sudden lack of Krabby Patties are heavy and dark. Adults will get the farce, but it may scare some of the very little ones. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. Catch up with us at Take2MovieReview.com and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Take2_Review.
WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
You're tuned correctly for the Open Mic Show, a 50-year staple of democracy in the Merrimack Valley. I'm Tim Coco. Nathan E. Webster III is producing in master control. All right, we really thank our guests, first of all, Christina Mazzone and Megan Shea for that presentation. We will keep these telephone numbers handy if anyone wants to call, and maybe if you don't even want to go on the air, you just want to know Christina's direct phone number, you have a concern, Nate will give you that over the phone. Now, meanwhile, we have only about a little under 20 minutes for any more birthday wishes and anniversaries. We're going to give away a March birthday cake or anniversary cake donated by LBD's Second Generation Italian Bakery of Bradford. It'll be your choice of vanilla or chocolate, 7-inch cake. Very easy to win. Just call and wish someone a happy birthday or a happy anniversary. We also have a prize from Kimball Tavern Antiques, corner of Salem and South Main Streets. You could win. It's a 3-part question, and pardon me as I get used to asking it. It's a 3-part question, all dealing with John Greenleaf Whittier, Haverhill's favorite son, in the state of New Hampshire. John Greenleaf Whittier used to frequent 2 New Hampshire towns. Which ones? He used to frequent 2 New Hampshire towns. Which one? And I think it's safe to say not a more obvious one. And then part 2, name 2 locations in New Hampshire named after John Greenleaf Whittier. One is a bridge. What community is that in? One is a highway. What is the route number? We'll repeat that after the news. Early on, I told you that WHAV has launched its Make Waves campaign. Tom Bergeron, host of Dancing with the Stars, who got his start at WHAV in 1972, is honorary chairperson. The campaign has kicked off. If you can donate, make a gift, or perhaps ask your employer to make a gift, go to WHAV.net. There's a banner on the top of the page. There are stories inside the page. WHAV.net. Look for the picture of Tom Bergeron. Make waves. Here's a quick list of contributors to the campaign so far. Al Brenner. You might all remember Al from Haverhill. He has donated, followed by Jack Roy, Tom Bergeron himself, Jessica Finicaro, Dave Tibbetts, whose Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council is sponsoring this hour of the Open Mic Show, Mark LeMay, WHAV, a former news director and, frankly, frequent fill-in, does it all for WHAV. Larry Olasky, he's been on the Open Mic Show before. Elaine Barker, we all know Elaine from Paper Potpourri. And Larry Seaman, who you may remember from Channel 22's About Town, I think the name of the show is, About Town. And he is still very, very active in cable television in Salem, New Hampshire. Played a role here at WHAV during the 60th anniversary. So our thanks go out to all of these contributors. We need to raise at least $100,000. I will tell you that almost half of that was getting the permit from the Federal Communications Commission in Washington to put WHAV-FM on the air at 97.9 on your dial. What makes this challenge all that more difficult is the Federal Communications Commission has also put a time limit on construction, basically 18 months from the date of issue, which was January 9th. And, well, keep in mind, we can't build in the winter, and in fact, that's an issue now. We can't even walk the transmitter site that's being discussed because it's under 6 feet of snow. So that is an issue. So we're really looking at a summer construction season to put up a tower, transmitter building, equip it, test it, do final proofs, as they call them in the business, for the Federal Communications Commission. So we're really on a time limit. If you can contribute, visit WHAV.net. And you can click on anything where you see a picture of Tom Bergeron. It'll take you to the link at GoFundMe, one word. Or Nate will take your phone call if you'd rather pledge over the phone, 978-374-1900. Frankly, this is critically important. If the station is not built in the time period designated by the Federal Communications Commission, it will not happen. And I'm sad to say that is the federal rule. The band is crowded. Everybody wants a radio station. We were lucky enough to be able to fight hard and be successful. But the battle isn't over until it's built. If you can help, much appreciated by all of the listeners and the viewers tonight. We're going to go to news, this time a minute later than last time. Maybe next time, we'll see how late I get. But local news with Dana Esmel, WHAV News Director, national and international news from one of our networks, FSN, and then local weather from meteorologists right here at WHAV in the Merrimack Valley, the most accurate weather forecast you'll ever hear. We'll be back after that.
Open mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
It's 8:04.
WHAV Merrimack Valley. WHAV is a not-for-profit service of Public Media of New England Incorporated. It's heard on 1640 AM, the web, at whav.net, and participating cable television stations.
Here's what's happening in local news. WHAV is calling for a business electricity shutoff moratorium for the remainder of the winter season. The statement from WHAV comes amid reports from local businesses suffering temporary weather-related sales and collection delays of their own. Businesses report electricity utility National Grid is aggressively shutting off power when bill payments are only a few days behind. Potentially millions of dollars of infrastructure damage, broken water pipes and such, occurred as bill payers stayed out of work. In most cases, workers responded to travel bans suggested or required by government officials during recent storms. Quote, "There are times when it is not enough to report the news. In this case, WHAV can best serve public interests with a direct appeal to political leaders to intervene," said Tim Coco, WHAV's president and general manager. WHAV is honoring requests from local businesses which fear embarrassment or lost customer confidence not to release specific company names. WHAV is calling on Governor Charles Baker, Energy and Environmental Affairs Secretary Matthew A. Beaton, and Department of Public Utilities Chairman Angela M. O'Connor to take whatever emergency steps are necessary to immediately impose a utility shutoff moratorium. Businesses, like consumers, also saw electricity rates surge in recent months. There was no response by deadline from National Grid or local or state leaders. A Haverhill man is due to face drug-related and assault charges after his arrest by Haverhill police Sunday night. According to police, Edward Alica, 37, of Haverhill, was arrested at 9:20 p.m. Sunday at 267 Washington Street. He is charged with assault with a dangerous weapon to a witness, malicious damage, and possession of Class B and E substances. He is due to be arraigned in Haverhill District Court. A Haverhill woman faces drug-related charges in court following her arrest Sunday afternoon. Haverhill police report Drew Camille, 49, of Haverhill, was taken into custody at 2:30 p.m. Sunday at 7 Rose Street. She is charged with possession of a Class E substance and conspiracy to violate drug laws. A Haverhill man is due to be arraigned in court on a third drunk driving offense, according to Haverhill police. Paul St. George, 60, of Haverhill, was arrested at 9:15 p.m. Saturday at the intersection of Canosa and Humphrey Streets. He is charged with operating a motor vehicle under the influence of liquor, third offense, an open container violation, and a license restriction violation. In other police news, 2 Haverhill women were arrested separately on Saturday under outstanding warrants. Haverhill police report Jessica C. Cizizo, 29, of Haverhill, was taken into custody at 2:45 p.m. Saturday at 50 High Street. She is charged with 2 counts of sex for a fee and trespassing. In an unrelated arrest, Sigeri Ramos, 23, of Haverhill, was taken into custody at 11 a.m. Saturday on Stage Street. Under 5 outstanding warrants, she is charged with larceny by check, larceny by false pretense, reckless endangerment to a child, disorderly conduct, and threats. No further details were available by deadline. In local high school sports, no scheduled team matches on Monday for the Whittier Tech Wildcats. Meanwhile, the Whittier girls basketball team is seeded number 1 in the MIAA State Basketball Divisional Tourney. Whittier will play at 7 p.m. Saturday, February 28, at home in a quarterfinal round. Their opponent is yet to be announced. Remember, WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source, and it's always free. In the Edwin V. Johnson newsroom, this is Dana Esmail.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. Officials in France have seized the passports of 6 citizens who were allegedly trying to travel to Syria to join the Islamic State. The confiscated passports are out of use for at least 6 months, and Prime Minister Manuel Valls says he expects more seizures to come. In a previous statement, the Prime Minister said some 1,400 people in France have joined the Islamic State or intend to in the future. The Palestinian Authority and the PLO, or Palestine Liberation Organization, face fines of more than $600 million after a jury in New York found them liable for terror attacks in Israel in which Americans were killed or injured. The jury's award could be financially crippling for the Palestinians, as our U.S. correspondent Simon Marks reports.
The decision ends a 10-year legal battle waged by American victims of the 6 attacks which took place in Israel between 2002 and 2004. The jury delivered a massive victory to the victims' families and a stunning blow to the Palestinian Authority and the PLO. Their liability carries a penalty of $218 million in damages that's automatically tripled under the terrorism law under which the case was brought. Despite denials by top Palestinian officials, the court heard evidence that Palestinian Authority employees were involved in planning, financing, and carrying out the attacks.
Greece is set to submit a list of reform measures to be approved by the European Union before Eurozone finance ministers can agree to extend its bailout program. Athens is under pressure to agree to some austerity conditions in exchange for 4 months of extra time to negotiate another rescue package, despite Greece's new government's opposition to more spending cuts. The new U.S. Defense Secretary is holding a 6-hour meeting in Kuwait to discuss the strategy to deal with the Islamic State. Ashton Carter says he wants to better understand the Obama administration's approach to a very complicated problem. From Washington, Daniel Wrenches reports.
The top U.S. generals and diplomats attending this marathon strategy session have been told not to bring pre-prepared presentations and to talk off the cuff. Defense Secretary Carter says he's not planning any immediate changes, only to understand the strategy. The Obama administration is coming under pressure mainly from Republicans who argue that the approach is too limited, as concerns are raised about the spread of the Islamic State beyond Iraq and Syria.
Top-level nuclear talks between the U.S. and Iran have resumed in Geneva amid mounting criticism of the Obama administration's tactics. An initial deal is meant to be hammered out by a March 31st deadline, with negotiators from both sides, including U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, trying to reconcile the gulf between them. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Wave weather.
I'm WHAV meteorologist Gary Best with Wave Weather. It's generally clear and very cold across the Merrimack Valley through the night. Low temperature 3 to 8 below zero. During the day on Tuesday, sunshine followed by clouds in the teens through the afternoon. Maybe some flurries around Tuesday night in the teens then. And a return of sunshine for Wednesday afternoon. High temperature close to 32. Fair and cold on Thursday. This is Gary Best. Your next Wave Weather coming up in 30 minutes.
Phil Christie here. Did you know you can hear comedy and drama every night? Listen to these remastered classics at 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. Only local radio can bring you this combination of music, news, and features, but only WHAV does.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents The Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
Welcome back to the Open Mic Show. This hour of the Open Mic Show is being brought to you by the Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council. Smart companies choose the Merrimack Valley. And I want to alert you that later tonight, officially tomorrow, there'll be a new edition, comes out weekly, of Merrimack Valley Happenings. And you can view this newsletter, which I have to say, David Tibbetts compiles it. He's the president of the Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council, and it's just about every happening from Greater Lowell, Greater Lawrence, Greater Haverhill, Greater Newburyport, just about every happening. Free events, some paid events, some news items. It is really a very comprehensive, fantastic newsletter. You can view it at Merrimack Valley, one word, .info, merrimackvalley.info. All right, we have a caller, but is this a cake entry? All right, so why don't we're going to draw the cake, but I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to should we take this call first? We'll take the call first since we have a track record of losing calls. We'll take the call first, then we're going to name the March birthday or anniversary cake winner. Thanks go out to LBD's second-generation Italian bakery. So hang on. You may find out if you or someone you know has won. You're on the Open Mic Show.
It's nice to know I'm slightly more important than cake.
Well, yes, David Goudswood, WHAV historian. I don't know if you heard your name called earlier in the program. No, you weren't name called.
Funny you should ask that, because I just happen to know the answer to the question.
What question?
About the Bonin building.
Oh, yes. I forgot what I'd asked. All right, the Bonin building. This is where Ocasio's true martial arts studio was located. They moved further up Merrimack Street. The Greater Haverhill Foundation and its partners in the development of Harbor Place purchased the building last year. You heard about that first on WHAV. The building is gone. It's the second building to go down there for the development. The other building was Dr. Frederick Rose's optometry office. Again, and that optometry office is now located also elsewhere in downtown. Our question for David Goudswood was, what is the history of that?
You don't remember the question at all.
Not completely. It's a Bonin building. It was W.T. Grant's. It was a bowling alley. We have a photo up that WHAV News took after the building came all the way down. Now, David, what do you want to share with us?
All right. The Herman Ocasio bought it in 94.
All right, so
now he bought
had
it from the Bonin estate.
Okay, the Bonin estate.
Robert Bonin bought it in 67 from the W.T. Grant Company.
All right, so he was an investor. Robert Bonin bought it from Grant. So we're doing this in reverse chronology.
That's correct. And basically they owned it back to when it was built, 1916.
Grants owned it?
Yes, sir.
All the way back to 1916? Is that how long W.T. Grant was here?
Well, it was how long the company existed, at least locally. I mean...
No, okay, that is fascinating. David Goudswood, always fascinating with his information. We'll call this part of the Haverhill Heritage Series. David Goudswood, 1916, W.T. Grant. It was a new building then.
Mm-hmm. And at that time, and it's similar to what they did with the Park Snow building. They used the lower floors as a commercial operation, and the upper floors were lawyers and that sort of, white-collar job people, dentists, optometrists, that sort of thing.
I have to say, I grew up here, and I walked down there. I just having trouble remembering what was there before Ocasio's.
Well, I saw a picture, and I'm not sure if it was one of yours or if it was one of the Facebook posts, but I had never seen the W.T. Grant logo on the building until they started tearing the whole thing down.
Oh, okay. That's
I believe
interesting.
it was painted on the back or a side.
All right, and then
But the bowling alley would have been in the basement.
I believe the deli was there for many years. The Berman family owned that. I guess I can remember food okay.
Well,
whatever that tells you. All right.
but a lot of the buildings downtown had a cigar shop or a billiard operation in it, and so bowling alleys were also a natural progression. It was basically a place where the guys could hang out after shift. I mean, keep in mind the number of guys working downtown.
Okay, back when the shoe industry was at its peak, and before and after probably too. So from 1916 to 1967, W.T. Grant and Company, if I'm saying that, if I'm remembering the name right, and then Robert Bonin bought the building, variety of commercial uses, and then Herman Ocasio had it for 10 years, and now
That's what I said.
it is gone.
Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore. It go bye-bye.
All right. It's all right. Hey, David, you want to stay on the phone and maybe you'll sing happy birthday? You don't have to sing.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to go and walk the dog or do the dishes
Well, let me
or
ask you
anything
this.
that doesn't involve singing.
Besides having a great grasp of local history, you also occasionally have a pretty interesting comment to make. Any comment on the demolition of the two buildings so far?
Only the fact that it's making me nauseous because I'm just having the worst case of deja vu.
From urban renewal?
Yeah, and I mean, the only saving grace at this point in time, as far as I can tell, is that, like you said, at least there's a building already scheduled to replace it.
Yes, and that looks like that's happening. I noticed from the pictures that there seemed to be either something on top of the Leahy Clinic building, I think that's what it's called, Northeast Behavioral Health. That building has not yet been purchased by the group, and I guess we haven't been able to reach the owner to find out more about what he thinks. I believe he paid $3.5 million for that building, and it's the one building that is not yet under the control of this group. So we may be hearing more about that in the coming days.
It sounds like intrigue waiting to happen.
All right. Well, David, thank you as always for your insight. We all very much appreciate it. And folks, if you want to know a little more about David Goudswood, or perhaps buy one of his books, at the bottom of WHAV's website, whav.net, you'll see we've put the members shop right on the front page. You can buy books from local authors. David Goudswood moved to the top with his latest book, chronologically speaking, A Horror Guide to Massachusetts.
It's a dreadful burden because it means I've got to keep putting stuff out to stay at the top.
That's right. And then, of course, we don't want to leave out his brother, Scott, who's also listed on the cover. And we will have...
Who has a novel coming out this summer.
Has a novel, too. We're going to have Scott on as soon as we can. And somehow it's just a matter of getting it all scheduled. So congratulations to both of you.
Good night, Tim.
Good night.
Good
Thank
luck
you.
with the hat.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All right. We got some calls starting to pile up. I guess we will skip Community Spotlight. And we have the hat. This was the hat that I inherited from Jack Bevilacqua, former host of this program. I'm just going to spin these. This has been a month of interruptions as far as weather and holidays. So let's pick the winner of the cake contest. We really need to get a sound effect for this. The winner is Shane Wood. Shane Wood. I believe it's a birthday, right? Shane Wood. All right, more appropriate. Shane, you have won a birthday cake from LBD's second-generation Italian bakery right here in Bradford. All right, we'll make a note of that. All right, we'll try to get these prizes out. Everyone who won baseball cards a couple of weeks ago, yes, we know we have not mailed those yet. We will do that. And then we have more prizes to go. All right, let's take another phone call on the open mic. You're on the air.
Hello.
Yes, you're on the air.
Yeah. You're talking about the old Grant building.
Yes, what can you tell us?
City bowling alleys. That's a long time ago now. And Doc Griffin was a dentist down there.
Oh, really?
It was old Doc Griffin and young Doc Griffin. They were both pretty good golfers.
Two dentists.
I caddied for both of them at Haverhill Country Club.
Oh, did you? All right. So there were some dentists. What, are they on upper floors?
I think it was the second floor.
Second floor.
He had some real antique equipment.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. This was like the late 50s.
Okay. And actually, do you remember what else was on the first floor? I know the deli was there in the 70s. What else was on the first floor of that building? After?
I'm just trying to think what a gas company was across the street.
That's right. That's
I
right.
used to work there.
Oh, you did? You worked for the Haverhill...
Joe Oregon and I would go, we used to read gas meters.
So you worked for Haverhill Gas Company then?
Yeah, Haverhill Gas, and Joe Oregon and I go over to the TikTok restaurant.
The TikTok.
Now, I don't know if that was in a Grant building or not.
But I remember the TikTok.
Oh,
okay.
That was a great spot.
Oh, all right.
We'd get a bacon, not a bacon, we'd get an egg sandwich. Joe Oregon, good friend of mine.
So you must have known...
Egg sandwich with a slice of onion.
Oh, really? Okay.
We'd do that, and we'd get one day, I don't know what happened, but we had our meter books, and he said, John, just blue pencil the whole book, which we did. That would be an estimated gas reading.
Oh.
And we went up to Crystal Springs and played 18 holes of golf.
Oh, so
so that's not a very good story.
No, this is in the now it can be told. That's great. No, that's good. So did you know Charlie Billups?
Yeah, now you know the rest of the story.
All right.
That's why a gas bill was so high.
Well, only until the next reading, right?
Yeah, exactly right. It all balanced out.
It all balanced out. And so did you overlap with, was it Wayne Hogan?
What's that again?
You overlap with, is it Wayne? Wayne Hogan?
Oh, Wayne. Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
All right, because then after, that was a big fight between the gas company and I believe it was George Katsaris they had the fight with. Is that right?
I forget who it was, but I know that Wayne was one hell of a softball player.
Oh, okay, great. And then
he married one of the lovely girls. Well, I think the only lovely girl, really. Lou Lovely and Don Lovely, they played football for St. James and Haverhill High.
And former city councilor Herbert Goki worked there as well, right?
Yes, Goki, yeah. Goki, yeah.
All right,
exactly,
see?
Right.
See, I'm older than most people think.
And Harold Curtis was the personnel manager.
Those were the good old days. And then
Harold Curtis loved lovely-looking women, and all the girls that worked at Haverhill Gas Company were very lovely-looking.
Was that a requirement, you think, in those days?
Well, as far as I know, Harold Curtis was one of his requirements.
Well, what do you know about that? Now, of course, all the utilities were down there. The electric company was where Dr. I'm having a mind burp here. The dentist is in there now. The corner of House Street in Merrimack was the electric company. And then further up on House Street, right next to WHAV, was the New England, I don't remember this, but I know of it, was the New England Telephone Company Exchange before the new building went up on Winter Street. Is that right?
I think you're right, yes, absolutely.
So you could just walk downtown, pay your electric bill, your phone bill, and your gas bill, and have enough money to go over to the TikTok and then play golf afterward. Is that how it worked?
Well, before I worked with a gas company, I worked with Haverhill Electric.
Okay.
They were both Haverhill-owned companies at that time.
That's right. It's too bad we don't have that.
I worked at the stock room on Water Street.
Oh, the stock room. That building is still there, right?
The building is still there.
Because we couldn't take that in urban renewal because it was too expensive.
Oh, they're still storing stuff down there. They got the yard. It's all gated in now. But
hey, now what about? Okay, while I've got you, we only got a couple minutes. There's another electric utility substation on what's that street? Right off Emerson Street. It's an old building. I think it still says Haverhill Electric on it. What was that? Just a substation?
Oh, I don't know about that one. It's on Emerson Street?
Walnut. Is that Walnut Street? Walnut.
Walnut. The Walnut Street, yeah.
Yeah, so...
I don't recall Haverhill Electric, though.
Well, some kind of electric substation. Oh, you've gotten me going now. I'm going to go take a picture of it someday, and we'll share that on the open mic. Well,
Okay.
thank you for sharing your memories. Very, very helpful, and really appreciate your calling. And I do hope you'll call again.
I enjoyed it. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Really enjoyed that. Well, plenty of memories. All right, all right, if you can take that switch off. All right. Well, it looks like we've been cut off from Haverhill Community Television, so this is as good a time as any to continue the broadcast next week when we'll start on, can you believe it, April birthdays and anniversaries. I'm Tim Coco. Nathan E. Webster III produced the program from WHAV Master Control. We will see you next week on the radio. Thank you.
Open mic!
Join Tim Coco live on the Open Mic again next Monday night at 6:30. The opinions expressed on the Open Mic show are not necessarily those of WHAV, its underwriters, or affiliated stations. The Open Mic show came to you from the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom.
It's 8:30.
Phil Christie here. Are you listening to WHAV on cable television? If so, join WHAV in thanking the board, staff, and members of your local public access channel.
Catch the wave!
Those political sound bites you hear on the news are, at best, incomplete and could be misleading or even outright lies. This is David Pakman. Take time to delve into the truth by listening to The David Pakman Show, Tuesday through Friday nights at 8 on WHAV. Lack of logic and reason are exposed on The David Pakman Show as newsmakers collapse under cross-examination. Remember, only local radio can bring you this talk opportunity, but only WHAV does.